哦，对。
Scientific American, 60-second science. I'm Karen Hopkins. Some words imitate the sounds made by the things they describe, like buzz, or hiss, or zip. For you language lovers, that's called onomatopoeia. But what if the way a word sounds could evoke some other feature of an object, like its shape? Well, a new study suggests not only that it can, but that the same word can do so across multiple languages. The findings are in the journal Philosophical Transactions of the Royal Society B. The researchers were interested in studying the evolution of language.
Both the ancient origins of language going back hundreds of thousands of years ago, or maybe even millions of years ago, and also the ongoing evolution of modern languages.
Marcus Perlman, a lecturer at the University of Birmingham in the UK. He says that a century ago, linguists insisted that the words we assign to various objects and actions are essentially arbitrary, and that words don't necessarily resemble or sound like the things to which they refer.
There's nothing doggy sounding about the word dog or feline sounding about the word cat.
Well, that makes sense, because different languages have different words for the same thing. One person's pup is another one's perro.
But there's a lot of evidence now suggesting that the arbitrariness doctrine is proven to be false.
Onomatopoeia is a case in point. Then so is sign language, which makes frequent use of gestures that resemble their reference, like tracing the tracks of tears as a symbol for crying. To further explore this connection between words and their meanings, Perlman and his colleagues turned to something called the Bouba-Kiki effect.
What it is about is that when you see two shapes, one looks like a cloud or like a flower, kind of roundish, and the other one is more spiky, maybe looks more like a star. And when you're asked to say which one is Bouba, you'll be more likely to point to a rounded one, and for Kiki to a spiky one.
Alexandra Trick of the Leibniz Center General Linguistics in Berlin. She says that if you were to look at the words Bouba and Kiki, which are totally made up, one possible explanation for the effect could be the appearance of the letters.
The shape of B-O-U-B-A, right? The shapes of those letters kind of evoke the sense of roundness. These letters are round.
But what happens when you don't see the words, but hear them? And does it matter what language the listener speaks?
So we thought that would be a wonderful idea to just study Bouba-Kiki across the world.
With the help of 22 different collaborators, the researchers tested the Bouba-Kiki effect in 25 different languages, from Albanian and Armenian all the way to Zulu, with Farsi, French, and Finnish in between. Participants were told to look at the two shapes, and then listen to the sound, either Bouba or Kiki. Then they were asked which shape corresponds to the sound, whether they were German,
Welche Form gehört zu diesem Klang?
Or Spanish,
¿Cuál figura corresponde al sonido?
Russian.
Для каждого слова, которое вы сейчас услышите, укажите, с какой из картинок оно у вас ассоциируется.
Or Thai.
รูปร่างอันไหนสอดคล้องกับเสียง
Most participants said the rounder shape was Bouba and the pointy one was Kiki.
This suggests that the effect is legit. It does seem to be driven by some widely observed correspondence between the spoken words and visual features of the shapes.
Well, there were some exceptions. Perlman says that speakers of Romanian, Turkish, and Mandarin Chinese were more likely to make the reverse call, although my Turkish friend and her family fell squarely in the classic Bouba-Kiki camp.
Baba has a round, fuller, and softer sound to it, and Kiki has a sharp and spiky sound like the spike shape.
As to what that could mean about the evolution of language, imagine our early ancestors when they started using spoken words to refer to things.
They couldn't say, listen, my friend, now we're going to call this new object a table.
So to get the conversation off the ground, they probably tried to come up with sounds that somehow evoked the object at hand.
And as a general principle, it might be that new words that are heard to resemble their reference some way or another would have been more likely to be understood and adopted by a wider community of speakers.
So if folks from far-flung cultures generally agree that booba is bulbous, while kiki is sharp,
it shows us the potential of those correspondences to have been relevant at the very dawn of language, that in fact our ancestors could have relied upon those when establishing the first word forms.
Shrek says she'd like to explore the effects of other nonsense words, ones that use different consonants and vowel sounds.
But also testing real vocabularies of languages across these possible dimensions that evoke the sense of roundness or sharpness or maybe other sensations in us, because that might bring us closer to how first words came to be.
Which means that booba and kiki will not be the last word. Special thanks to my friends
Valerie Krieger,
Denise Salma,
Юрий Лазебник,
สุพัชยา ตรงเท่ง
and
Billy Astunar.
for Scientific Americans.
OK， 这一篇在讲说文字对于那个物体的影响。刚开始有讲到说这个物体有两个物体，一个是尖的，一个是圆的，然后叫它一个叫 Gigi， 一个叫什么 Gugas， 反正就是念起来的感觉跟那个字的感觉搭配在一起。然后因为每个语言的逻辑跟什么东西都很不同嘛，然后同一个东西也有可能有不同语言的叫法，同一个声音有不同的叫法，但是对他们来说，这个用字来形容一个物体，其实在每一个语言都是非常相近的。所以他讲到说，这就像是人类的原本的那种本能吧，对，我自己觉得像是人类本能啊，对啊，也会有一些特别的叫法，反正就是对，就是有点直觉的叫这个东西。对，
我自己是没听到太多什么东西啊，但我记得他中间有说过他们拿过什么云，还有什么东西，然后来去比喻，然后这么一下，